A few years ago, I went to see a movie with my girlfriend. It was a quiet evening, the kind where you're not expecting anything out of the ordinary. We lived in a town that had a pretty decent movie theater, and we'd been there a few times before. It wasn't the busiest place in town, but it had a nice atmosphere and was only a few minutes' drive from where we lived. On this particular night, we didn't have any major plans, so we figured a casual movie date would be the perfect way to spend the evening. We arrived at the theater around 7:30 p.m., a little bit early for the showtime, so we had time to grab some snacks and get comfortable. The lobby wasn't particularly busy. There were a handful of people milling around, but it wasn't like one of those packed Friday night crowds. It was quiet enough for us to casually talk without raising our voices. We grabbed our tickets and made our way to the screening room. We found a pair of empty seats about halfway up, toward the center of the row. The movie was one that we were both looking forward to, so we settled in, and the lights dimmed as the previews began. I remember feeling that typical sense of excitement as the trailers played, my girlfriend leaning in toward me to whisper her thoughts on the upcoming movies. The theater smelled like buttered popcorn and fresh concession stand candy, a comforting scent that always made me feel nostalgic for movie nights. After a couple of previews, my girlfriend nudged me and told me that she was getting hungry. I wasn't surprised. She always got hungry right after the trailers. Without hesitation, I offered to go grab us some snacks while she stayed in her seat. Being the gentleman that I try to be, I figured I could make a quick trip to the lobby and grab some candy or popcorn. She was fine with that, so I stood up and made my way out of the theater. The lobby was quieter than usual. There were a few people scattered around, chatting quietly or getting food from the concession stand. I joined the line, which was only a few people deep, and waited my turn. I wasn't in any hurry. The movie wasn't starting for another hour, so I figured I'd have time to grab the food and still make it back without missing anything. I must have only been standing there for a minute or so when a guy approached me. He was about my age, maybe a year or two older, with scruffy hair and a worn jacket. At first glance, he looked like someone I'd seen around before, but I didn't recognize him right off the bat. The weird thing was, though, he called me by name. "Hey, you're Alex, right?" he said, a friendly grin on his face. I was taken aback. "Yeah, that's me. Do I know you?" The guy didn't seem to think anything of it. He just smiled and asked, "Remember me? I'm friends with Lucas, man." Lucas. That name hit me like a ton of bricks. Lucas was one of my good friends from high school. We used to hang out all the time, play football together, and just do the usual teenager stuff. After high school, we both went to different colleges, and we sort of drifted apart. I hadn't seen or heard from him in at least 2 years, but hearing this guy mention his name instantly made me feel more comfortable. Maybe this guy wasn't a stranger after all. "Oh, Lucas," I said, nodding in recognition. "Yeah, I haven't seen him in forever. How do you know him?" "We used to hang out a lot," the guy replied casually, still smiling. "He's actually here tonight, in the theater. He was telling me he was going to see the same movie as you." I felt a little awkward, unsure of what to make of all this. It had been so long since I'd spoken to Lucas that I wasn't sure what to think of this guy. But still, it seemed harmless enough. The guy was friendly, and if he knew Lucas, maybe I could catch up with him. "Yeah, sure, I'd love to say hi to him," I said, figuring it couldn't hurt. "Where is he?" The guy seemed to brighten up. "He's just around the corner. Follow me." I was hesitant for a moment but shrugged it off. After all, I had nothing to lose. My girlfriend was still in the theater, waiting for me, so I figured I'd be back in a few minutes. I didn't expect anything strange to happen. Why would I? I followed the guy through the lobby, down the hall, and into a quieter part of the theater. It wasn't the main hallway where the popular movie rooms were. This was a less trafficked area, with fewer people and only a few auditoriums scattered along the hallway. It was the kind of hallway where people could walk without bumping into anyone. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. As we walked, I noticed something strange. A small group of guys, probably in their 20s, standing near one of the exit doors. They were wearing ski masks. Now, I don't know about you, but that instantly made me uncomfortable. It wasn't a cold night. There was no reason for anyone to be wearing ski masks indoors, especially in a movie theater. I didn't recognize any of them, but the guy I was with led me directly toward them. I tried to push the unease aside, thinking maybe it was just a weird coincidence. But as we got closer, the guys all turned to look at me. Not the guy I was with, just me. I froze. Something didn't feel right. A gut feeling, that primal instinct, told me I should turn around and leave. The whole situation had become too strange too quickly. But before I could react, I heard the guy I was with say, "Hey, they're just right up ahead." I could feel my heart rate pick up. Something was off. I looked at the masked guys again, and they were still staring. One of them even took a step forward. My instinct screamed at me to get out of there. Without thinking, I turned on my heels and bolted. I didn't look back, but I could hear the guy calling after me. My pace quickened as I rushed back down the hallway and toward the lobby, my feet barely touching the ground as I ran. The farther I got from those guys, the more I felt the tension leaving my body. When I reached the lobby, I didn't stop. I headed straight for the food line, hoping that the busy crowd would help me blend in and shake off whatever that weird encounter was. I stood there, trying to calm my nerves. It felt like the world was still, as though time had slowed down for just a moment. A few minutes later, I saw the guy from before. He appeared around the corner, looking around, probably trying to find me. When his eyes locked on mine, he didn't say anything. He just disappeared around the corner again, as though he was trying to avoid any confrontation. I didn't stick around. I quickly got the food, paid, and made my way back to the theater, relieved that the whole strange experience seemed to be over. I returned to my girlfriend just as the movie was starting. I tried to forget about what happened and focused on enjoying the film. But somewhere in the back of my mind, the feeling of unease lingered. Every time I looked up from the screen, my eyes would flicker to the doorway, half expecting to see someone there. About halfway through the movie, I glanced behind us. Something made me do it, I don't know why, and that's when I saw them. Two men, both wearing ski masks, standing just inside the door. They were looking directly at me. My heart sank. I quickly looked away, hoping I was just imagining things. But a few moments later, I saw them leave. They didn't make a scene. They just quietly walked out. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were watching me. I watched the door for the rest of the film, but they didn't return. After the movie ended, I didn't waste any time. I told my girlfriend about the strange encounter. We left the theater quickly, but I kept an eye on the parking lot as we walked out. I didn't see the men anywhere, and I breathed a sigh of relief. The whole night had been so weird that I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I tried contacting Lucas the next day to let him know what had happened, but he had no idea who the guy was. He did, however, mention that there had been some tension between him and that guy in the past, which only made me more confused. I decided not to pursue it further. There was no need to stir up something that had already passed. But I did feel better knowing I walked away when I did. It was a strange experience, one that stuck with me for quite some time. I'm still not sure what those men were up to, but I've never had a similar encounter since then. I've gone back to that theater many times over the years, and each time, I can't help but feel a little extra cautious. But for the most part, everything has been normal, just like it was before that night. It's just one of those stories you tell people when they ask about your weird experiences. You know, the one where you're not sure what happened, but you're glad you trusted your instincts. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. You never know when the next adventure or danger will be around the corner. Stay safe, stay aware, and always listen to your gut.